Good afternoon, Eberly College of Science, donors, alumni, administrators, faculty, staff, students, and friends. And welcome to our Benefactor Appreciation event. As you all know, we were so hoping to host you at University Park this year to thank our benefactors for your philanthropy in person. Thank you for being with us today, again on Zoom. I am Kim Neely, Senior Director of Development and Alumni Relations for the Eberly College of Science. It's a privilege to be with you today to help our Dean, Dr. Tracy Lankilda, and others from our college. Thank you for your generosity. Throughout our history and during our current campaign, A Greater Penn State for 21st Century Excellence, you have helped us open doors to our students regardless of their heritage, individual characteristics, or financial circumstances, and provide access to an extraordinary science degree and an exceptional Penn State experience. You have helped to distinguish our college by contributing funding that recruits and rewards the best faculty on this planet so they can establish their impactful and sometimes life-changing research here at this institution, and engage students deeply in their classrooms and labs, impacting the whole world from right here in Happy Valley. Some housekeeping now. While the chat function will be live during this webinar, the speakers may not be able to see and keep up with your comments and questions. However, we do have an interactive portion for you later on in this presentation, and we will be monitoring chat then. But we don't want to squelch chat now. So if you want to simply use chat to shout out your support and your enthusiasm for our college, we hope that you'll do that. Now it is my pleasure to introduce to you our exceptional Vern M. Williman Dean of the Eberly College of Science, Dr. Tracy Lankilda. As you all know, Dr. Lankilda recently completed her first full year as Dean. Dean Lankilda, the Zoom is yours.
Thank you, Kim. Hello and welcome to the 2021 Benefactor Recognition Celebration. Thank you all so much for taking time to join us today. And a note of appreciation to Giuseppe Licci, Andrea Grazzini, and Cade Sittenden for putting together this wonderful event. Thank you. When we came together at last year's Benefactor Recognition event, I had been Dean of the college for about a month. Now a full year has passed, and what a year it's been. You not only stuck by us this year, but in many, many cases, you offered us additional support and showed up in greater numbers than ever. We are so grateful for our alumni and donors. You are the best, and I'm so fortunate to be your Vern M. Williman Dean. While this year has presented challenges, many of them significant and a little scary, it's also presented us with a lot of opportunities. Our faculty have worked diligently to welcome students back into the classroom, delivering meaningful instruction and engaging students in the face of some continuing constraints. Our students, including those joining us today, displayed incredible resilience as they adapted to their new learning environments. They adopted positive coping strategies and ways to practice self-care, like many of us did. And while this year continues to be challenging for many, your support has made it possible for them to push through. Our scientists and researchers rose as leaders and experts, including in the management and prevention of viruses and the spread of infectious disease. And we're beginning to emerge from this pandemic largely due to the contributions of science, including those of our faculty. Thank you for partnering with us in raising awareness, responding to urgent need, and finding solutions to global problems. As Penn State nears the end of our current campaign, A Greater Penn State for the 21st Century Excellence, I'm reminded that many of you are dealing in the front line of research and discovery. You're living examples of the mission and vision of this campaign, investing your expertise, your finances, and your energy to further the public good. Thank you. You've continued to be our partners during these unusual times. allowing us to provide unparalleled experiences for students and faculty through research, experiential educational opportunities, and collaboration with scientists across the world. You've allowed us to inspire and facilitate cutting-edge approaches in our classrooms through the establishment, for example, of a new Teaching Innovation Award program. Your generosity has made it possible for us to establish a Student Service Leadership Award for our graduate students who are deeply invested in a climate and culture for our departments and make valuable investments of their time and energy in ensuring we can all do science in an environment where all are welcome and all support the success of our students. You've supported our faculty and students in translating their research to commercialize technology through our lab bench to commercialization grants. And you've made it possible for our faculty to pursue cutting-edge research that is helping to solve the world's problems, including, and not limited to, addressing food security by producing more cold, drought, and stress-tolerant crops, creating human health solutions, including by understanding memory loss and reducing antibiotic resistance, and supporting highly pragmatic applications of nanotechnology for the technological benefit of humankind, and answering the most fundamental questions, for example, about the origins of our universe. You've allowed us to find new ways to build public trust and understanding of science, which is so incredibly important. This includes starting a new outreach initiative called the Rockets for Inclusive Science Education, or RISE, which brings STEM-based research opportunities to high school students with an emphasis on those that are traditionally underrepresented in our STEM fields. And importantly, you've helped us open doors to education and provide access and affordability to students who might otherwise not be able to attend college. On behalf of the Eberly College of Science, you have my gratitude and my respect. None of this would be possible without your support. However, I know that my words don't even begin to capture the impact that you've had and you've made, nearly as much as some of the remarks from our faculty and student recipients. So I thought I'd share some of those sentiments with you today. Our faculty have shared the following. I don't think I will ever be able to thank you enough for providing me with flexible funds that have allowed me to jump on a plane, attempt new ideas, attend a meeting to share my ideas, and chase my passion. I know my creativity and impact would have been much less without the generosity of your family. And I am able to go full speed ahead on my research activities because the financial aspect is taken care of. Thank you for your support that has made this possible. And in the next year, your support will allow my research group to pursue problems at the forefront of my field that we would otherwise not have been able to tackle. And it greatly enhances the overall research enterprise at Penn State. Your investment has allowed us to take research further. For example, one of our faculty has said, I want to emphasize that your support for my research by your endowment has been a key resource in allowing us to obtain and maintain research support from federal agencies, such as the National Institutes of Health. Our students, who also benefited from your support, shared the following. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to continue studying and pursuing what I love at the school that I love. And your scholarship has raised the ceiling for both me and my family. I would never have made it this far without your generosity. This scholarship reminds me that I am not alone. And before getting my scholarship, I'd resigned that my food budget for the next months would be stretched very thin. I was to the point where friends were portioning parts of their meals to give to me. Donors, friends, I ask you today, did you ever imagine you could positively impact our research and our students like this? One student speaking at an event like this summed it up really nicely. They said, many donors don't get to see the product of their gifts, but I'm standing in front of you today solely because a compassionate and driven donor chose to financially support my future. I am graduating with a neuroscience degree because a donor believed in my potential, even though I am from a rural, underserved community, and I'm still in pursuit of medicine because people like you donated to someone like me. I'm going to say that line again for emphasis. People like you donated to someone like me. Thank you all for donating to our important someones. So at this point in the program that you've all been waiting for, our first student speaker, it's my privilege to introduce you to Eberly Thompson, an undergraduate chemistry major in the Eberly College of Science and a 2021 recipient of the Stephen and Patricia Benkovic Summer Research Award in Chemistry. Welcome, Eberly.
Hi, thank you for that. As said before, my name is Eberly Thompson. I'm currently a senior chemistry major here at Penn State. And I have been lucky enough to be a Benkovic Scholar, not only this year, but the year prior as well. I come from a pretty small town. It's called Kennett Square. It's by Longwood Gardens, if you know where that is. Even though both my parents have been involved in the business industry, and that's where their passions lie, I've always found myself really gravitating towards science. My junior year of high school, when everyone was applying to colleges, I was taking chemistry and I just completely fell in love with it. I thought it was so cool. So I was like, why not go to college for it? And, I told my parents, and they love and support me so much. But when I told them I wanted to be a chemistry major, they kind of had to hide a hint of disgust in their faces. But they told me, do what you love and, try to figure it out, trying to understand why I love chemistry so much. And that's when I made my decision. And so why do I love chemistry so much? Well, ever since I was little, I have been fascinated with questioning the world and seeking answers to all these questions I have. I remember when I was really, really little, sitting in the bathtub, watching a water droplet fall from the sink and being like, why does that happen? And, little water droplets that appear on the outside of cold water glasses. How do mirrors work? And why can I see so many different colors? Having all these questions really let me know I belonged in science. And I fell in love with the answers I got, specifically with chemistry. And I knew Penn State was the place to go to answer my questions. I knew they had so many different instruments and that I could ever desire for, along with amazing faculty and other undergrads and TAs that all love chemistry as much as I did. And I knew that each person had their own passions that they wanted to pursue. So many different research groups, so many different things to get involved with. And I've always had that little seed of curiosity in me, and Penn State really nourished it and let it blossom. The professors were so supportive, and benefactors like you really make everything possible to those like me. I knew what I learned in class, but it wasn't enough for me. I wanted to experience how everything can be applied in the real world, satisfying those initial curiosities. But during the semester, I don't have time to get all the answers I want. I have too many things going on. I have exams to worry about, and, I need to have that base level understanding before I can do anything in the real world. So that's when I talked to my research professor and I was like, can I stay over the summer? I mean, I knew that there was going to be some challenges associated with that, especially with the cost. I currently work with Dr. Sykes. He's a teaching professor here at Penn State. I've been working in his microplastics project for about 2 years now, so I've been working on it for a while. We look at micro-sized plastic particles in water and sediment and try to extract them from their matrices in order to qualitatively discover what exists in our surrounding environment. These plastics really pose a threat to human life, and we're unknowingly ingesting it all the time. A lot of time we give a lot of attention to the bigger plastic particles, but we want to see what these smaller things are doing. And, being aware of this threat, I was like, really just wanted to do my best to try to forge a path to be able to eventually maybe extract these plastics that we're identifying in these samples and, remove them from water and sediment so it's not endangering us as much. I wouldn't have been able to do this without benefactors' help, specifically the Benkovics. I wouldn't have been able to afford to stay here. I would have, like the other undergrad researcher. I had to stretch my money really thin. I probably would have been eating ramen every day. I needed money for groceries, for rent, for electric. And, you know, I know I'm not the only one that's like that. And like she said before, I really feel like connected with the fact that, you know, there are people out there that are really supporting my dreams and making it possible. And going into this past summer, I wasn't even really sure what spending all my time on research was going to look like. The summer before COVID hit and everyone was really confused and didn't know what was going to happen. And, you know, we weren't allowed on campus. So me and my professor made a game plan to try to better understand our project. And, you know, I was looking through so many different articles and putting on presentations for my professor to try to fully understand my subject. And it kind of made me an expert on it. And I feel like I learned how to be an investigator. And I felt like that is really valuable, especially since I do want to go into research after I graduate. This past summer, I was a lot more physically involved in my research. Everything from hiking up and down Spring Creek, trying to get little plastic samples and, you know, waiting for my digestion samples to cool down. I really just learned that science is such a supportive field. I'm so glad I ended up here. I got to know my research professor really well, and I know I could go to him for anything. And I also got to share all of my amazing discoveries and experiences with other undergrad researchers and, you know, grad students. And we all are just so excited to share what we find. And, you know, when there's a breakthrough, it's a celebration for everybody. I know I'm going to have those friendships forever, and I'm really thankful that I was able to have that experience. As said before, benefactors really don't get to see the products of their gifts to students like me. I wish I got to see the impact they make. I've continuously fallen in love with chemistry, and I don't see it stopping anytime soon. Post-grad, I plan, as I said before, continuing in research as I love answering questions and solving puzzles about the world. And I really just want to do my best to try to better the world in whatever way I can. I cannot express how thankful I am that you've provided me the resources to become who I always wanted to be. And you let that little curiosity seed that I had in me grow and flourish. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Dr. Dennis Headings, a 1964 pre-med graduate, created the R. Metz, Betty, and Dennis Headings Scholarship in 1993 in honor of his parents. The purpose of this scholarship is to provide recognition and financial support to outstanding students in the Eberly College of Science, and he has a preference attached to this scholarship for first-generation students. Later, in 2011, Dennis and his wife, Ginny, created the Virginia L. Corson Headings Scholarship to provide recognition and financial assistance to students majoring in biology, biochemistry, and molecular biology, or pre-medicine. Together, these two scholarships have provided financial support to 118 students in our college. Dennis is a retired pediatrician, and his wife, Ginny Corson, is a genetic counselor. Please welcome Dennis Headings for a donor's perspective on philanthropy. Dr. Headings.
Thank you, Kim. I was asked to make a few remarks about being a donor, and when I started, I originally thought I would just tell a few stories about how I became a donor. But as I put things down, I suddenly realized that if you're a donor, you're also a beneficiary. You also get a tremendous amount of benefit from this, and thought I would comment a bit on that to all of you future donors. How I became involved, as she's already pointed out, I started at Penn State in 1960. The two things that I remember about that year specifically was it was the first year of the new Beaver Stadium at its present site. And it was the first year of the Pollock dorms, And then I graduated in 1964. In terms of how I came to be a donor, I think almost all of us, at some point, if we go away from Penn State with good feelings and good memories and good connections, and I think most of us do, it didn't become Happy Valley for any other reason. At some point, I think you begin to think, well, I'd like to give something back. And certainly that occurred for me. And I can pretty accurately say I loved my 4 years at Penn State. It's hard to think about anything negative during that time, although I probably, if I had to list anything that wasn't quite enjoyable, it was sophomore organic chemistry, and also the 4-hour science labs on Saturday morning that when we had Saturday classes. Those weren't so good. So in terms of how I then became, education was always very important in the household in which I grew up. My parents and I lived in a duplex, and my maternal grandparents lived next door. They were elderly. My mother took care of them for the most part, and we ate most of our meals with them. My grandfather Huffman, was constantly talking about education, and was frequently heard to say, you can't get enough education. And this from a man who had only a 6th grade education, but was self-taught. He read the Bible daily, and he also read 2 newspapers every day, one of them being the Philadelphia Inquirer, which he had to read a day late because it came by mail in those days. But as I said, he would almost always say, you can't get enough education. And I took him at his word and made my way through Penn State, and then medical school, and then internship, residency, and a fellowship. And so I have a lot of institutions in my past, and I try to support all of them, but I want to state right here for my friends in development that Penn State does get the lion's share of the donations that come from this way. In setting up the scholarship, because of the concentration on education, my focus has been to provide support for direct support for students. And I will relate a story as to how I got involved and made the first contribution that helped establish the scholarship. It was probably in the 80s, late 80s. And one night I got a call from Penn State. It was one of those cold calls, as the telemarketers call. And in those days, those calls were made by students. I don't know if they're made by students now, but I must have been in a good mood because I listened to what he had to say. I must not have been on call. I wasn't trying to get him off the phone so that my patients could get through. And I listened to him thank me for my contributions, which at that point were probably $50 here, $100 there. And then he got around to saying that he hoped that I would be able to give this year as much as I had given the last year, which was, I think, $100. And I must have been feeling flush because I said, well, yes, I will. And this year I'll give $1,000. the tone of his voice automatically changed. I think I may have made his evening. I hope he got extra credit if that was the big gift that he had gotten that night. But as a result of that, I then started getting calls from the development people, the pros, and that eventually led to my involvement with the campaigns and setting up 2 scholarship funds, of which Kim has spoken. I should right here, because I've mentioned the development folks, give props to them. For any of you who have dealt with the development people at Penn State or who will deal with them in the future, I want to say that they are absolutely the best at what they do. They've always been understanding, knowledgeable, kind, helpful, and I've never felt pressured. I've never felt that they were pushing too hard. And in spite of the fact that I deal with a number of other institutions, I can't say that about all of the institutions that I interact with. As I mentioned at the beginning, I realized that there were benefits to becoming a donor. And the best one of those has been getting to know some of the students who have had the scholarships over the years. And for any of you donors who have the opportunity or who haven't, I would urge you to establish a relationship with your scholarship recipients. When you get those thank you notes from your students, write back to them and tell them a little bit about yourself, and see if you have some common interest, and I bet that you will. Over the years, I have a number of students that it has continued post graduation, and that has had the benefit of giving me some insight into the present day postgraduate education situation, and also just postgraduate employment and life. And through it, I've met and continued to be friends with some really wonderful people. So I would urge any of you who have the opportunity to do that, to grab a hold of that and do so. I have only one other story to tell, and it has to do with your memories and your feelings and your experiences about Penn State, and also your connections. And you probably will find new connections throughout your life. And I found one that was interesting and I think wonderful during this past year and a half, when we were all doing a lot of social distancing and leading monastic life. I took advantage of the time to do some genealogy research, and I knew a little bit about some wings of my family for a couple of generations, but really didn't know much beyond that. So in digging a bit, I found a connection that is, I will now take great pride in. I grew up just over the mountain in Reedsville, Pennsylvania, in Mifflin County. Went to a high school with a graduating class of 92. And during my pre-Penn State days, my aunt and my uncle owned a farm in Milroy that was just a lovely place. And my cousins and I spent an enormous amount of time there. Again, I love that old farmhouse and the fields and the orchards and some mountain land. And I discovered that this farm dated to 1783, when a deed was issued to Moses Thompson. And Moses Thompson had a grandson, also named Moses Thompson, who at some point in his life moved over the mountain from Milroy to what would become Centre County. Moses Thompson then proceeded to become the largest landowner in Centre County, at least according to the Centre County Historical Society. And he then, I think he probably was the richest man in Centre County as well. And in 1855, he gave the original 200 acres of land that became the Farmers High School, and then the Pennsylvania State College, and eventually the Pennsylvania State University. So I wanted to particularly tell about that connection that was most recently found, because I note our student speaker's last name is Thompson, and perhaps she already knows that she has connections to Moses Thompson and his fabulous gift to Penn State, but wanted to point that out. There's not too much else to say. It's really been wonderful being a donor and getting the benefits that accrue to that. And I just thank you all. And I hope that you will all have good days ahead, and best wishes for some years that perhaps will return more to normal. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Headings, to you and to Ginny, and through you to the Thompson family for their original philanthropy that is the foundation for the Pennsylvania State University. Thanks for that wonderful story. Now the interactive part I promised you all. We've seated a professional panel of philanthropy experts, students, and a faculty member who are circulating among their peers every day, but who are advantaged by your generosity. Our very capable moderator for this panel is our new gift officer, Cade Crittenden. Cade?
Thank you, Kim. We are very excited to host this panel, and I'll give you a few instructions as to how this will work. You'll only see me for a brief moment, as I'm only responsible to ask great questions that have come from donors already solicited and many benefactors, as well as to help coordinate some of the questions that are provided in the chat that these panelists can answer. At this time, I'm going to turn off my video so that you can focus your attention to the panelists, and you'll hear my voice asking the panelists different questions. And so for you panelists, go ahead and turn on your videos now. I will help you do that as I'm helping to run some of the Zoom, and we'll welcome you and begin with some introductions. You should be able to see all of our panelists now. Panelists, if you would go ahead and introduce yourselves. Let's start with Dr. Morley Haran, and then next let's go to Unnati Akuri. Danny Meline will be after, and then we'll hear from Nick Heller. So you'll go ahead and introduce yourselves, tell your name and what year of school you're in and your subject if you're students. And then for Dr. Morley Haran, will you please say your name, your department, and your area of teaching and research focus?
Sure, thanks very much. It's really a pleasure and an honor to speak to all of you. My name is Murli Haran. I'm a professor and head of the Department of Statistics. Just a quick summary of the kinds of things I work on. I work a lot on statistical methods and computational algorithms to solve hard statistical problems. And I work on something called spatial processes, which is to study data that have spatial locations associated with them. And a lot of that work is very heavily motivated by interdisciplinary collaborations with people right here at Penn State, including at the Center for Infectious Disease Dynamics and the biology department here in College of Science, and geoscientists on climate science research out in the Earth and Mineral Sciences College at Penn State as well.
Unnati?
Hi, everyone. I'm Unnati Akhari. I am a graduate student in the physics department here at Penn State. I work on quantum gravity and early universe cosmology. And I focus on studying what kind of initial conditions would have existed in the universe back 14 billion years ago, such that we see the kind of structure formation that we do see around us today. And yeah, I am so grateful to all of you to have given me this opportunity to be here.
Danny?
Hi, everyone. My name is Danny Lopez. I am from Arlington, Virginia. I'm a fourth-year student studying biology with a focus in neuroscience and minoring in psychology, neuroscience, and military studies. And like everyone has expressed so far, I'm really grateful to be here.
And Nick?
Hi, everyone. My name is Nicholas Heller. My hometown Suffern, New York, about 30 minutes outside New York City. I'm a senior, fourth-year student, undergraduate, majoring in biology with a minor in psychology. I plan on one day pursuing a career in the medical field. And I, like everyone else, is very appreciative of our donors today. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you all for those great introductions. Our first question will be directed to Danny. And the question is, why did you choose Penn State and the Eberly College of Science? And how did you choose your major and focus?
So I'm actually a tour guide on campus, and at the end of every tour, we share something called a warm and fuzzy. So I feel like I'm at a slight disadvantage because I have to share this basically daily. So I initially did not want to apply to Penn State. I was a first generation college student and a first generation American. And when my family was in Bolivia, Penn State was all my dad knew that college was. And being the rebellious teenager, I just didn't want to apply where my dad said he wanted me to go. And I reluctantly applied. And the first moment I stepped on campus with the Millennium Scholars interview, I just fell in love with how much I was being challenged from day one through the Eberly College of Science, the amount of leadership opportunities that I got as a freshman, and just be able to be involved in research. I chose the Eberly College of Science because, as I say on tours, there's more than 3,000 opportunities for research, and professors were willing to truly know me as a person and not just as another academic student. And I think that relationship that I built with people, being a first generation student, has really helped me develop my curiosity and the way that I articulate my thoughts, and just different networks where I feel like I'm being supported, not only from my family back home, but in small town PA, which I never knew I would end up being here. I truly was a little bit surprised when I first got to Penn State of how many connections there are and how far the Penn State name carries. And even when I'm back home in DC or near DC, I'm able to pick up conversations with people who I've been introduced through faculty that I've met at Penn State.
Thanks, Danny. Our next question is for Nick. Nick, how did you find out about your scholarship and award?
Yeah, so I received my notification about a scholarship award in an email. And the first thing I did was go right to my parents to show them how excited I was, and I wanted to make them proud. And it was very exciting news because the scholarship definitely helped me with saving money to purchase textbooks and other things for classes in my major. I'm very appreciative of it. It was definitely a little bit of light in all the darkness we've been having with, the pandemic and everything else going on. So it was definitely very exciting finding out this scholarship award in that email. So.
Thank you, Nick. Unnati, the next question will be for you. How did finding opportunities influence your decision to attend Penn State for graduate school?
Yeah, that's an important question because I think, yeah, I think I'll have to rewind 2 years ago when I was applying into grad schools. And I remember back then, I had this one track mind that, yeah, I need to focus on picking the school that that speaks to my research interests, and I was only focusing on that. And I remember I was again sent a notification about the scholarship opportunity at Penn State. I remember we had this interview for it, but that interview went on for like over 1.5 hours because I realized how welcoming the community here was to ideas, just bring new ideas, whether it's research, whether it's outreach, whether it's about how can we promote diversity and inclusivity in science. I realized that there's the environment here that allows me to thrive in all the ways as I continue to build my career in science. And I think for me, that was it was an important turning point as a young researcher in science as well, because it made me realize that it's truly very important today to build a comprehensive identity in STEM, and having opportunities being given to us where we can do that is a tremendous gift. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Dr. Morley Haran, how has donor funding impacted your work as a department head, and more broadly, your department as a whole?
Well, as most of you have heard in the news, statistics in the last decade or so has become it's sort of all over the place, statistics and data science, right? Everyone's excited about it. It's the opportunity for growth is tremendous. And so keeping up with that, we've already had a tradition of having a very strong department here, then continuing to recruit top students and at the undergraduate, graduate levels, as well as to recruit outstanding researchers. There's a lot of competition, and having resources to support bringing in top people at each level is great. And of course, as an aside, just in general, one of the very exciting things at being at a top College of Science in a strong statistics department at the flagship university of the state of Pennsylvania means that we have access to educate people from all sorts of disciplines, from all sorts of regions of the state, from rural areas, urban areas, and expanding that access. Often it requires that we are able to support students who really could use funding. That's sort of the missing piece of the puzzle. So so both for attracting lots of talent and also for supporting that talent, the funds that we received are just tremendously important to us. And I cannot say enough about how grateful I am for the support we've been given.
Thank you so much. This next question is for everyone. So feel free to feed off of each other to decide who responds first and next. It is, how has financial support benefited you as a student or professor throughout this crazy pandemic?
Maybe we'll start.
Go ahead. Thanks, Nick.
Yep. So I think I kind of mentioned it before, but these funds that I've received definitely helped me to afford textbooks and other course fees for my major that normally would be a lot more difficult to find the money for. And it kind of makes other things like getting groceries and and things around the house a little bit easier financially. Yeah, that's really it for me on my part. Very appreciative though.
Go next. Right. So I joined graduate school like one semester, and then there was pandemic. And I think, well, when I say that the funding has helped me tremendously, I know that I'm thanking not just as me, but also my family and my friends who saw how crucial it was to have this kind of, well, not have the stress of dealing with how am I gonna finance myself through graduate school while dealing with the pressure of there's a global pandemic going on. I think the way it's helped me since is so like I said before a little bit about developing this comprehensive identity in science, because having a scholarship as graduate student meant that I could save time and, more importantly, energy to branch out and explore my other passions, in particular science communication and outreach. And they definitely for me also became an anchor to feeling still present in the society and community, being able to come up with ideas for outreach on Zoom, online, trying to make small science outreach kits that we sent out to school students, as well as to our physics community here at Penn State. I think I was able to do these things. I was able to use my energy only because I had this scholarship, and which saved me from the time that I would have had to put into TAing. So yeah, and I want to share that.
Yeah, I have a similar kind of perception as Unanti. Being a first generation college student whose family has struggled a lot in the past financially, during the pandemic, both my parents lost their job. So we were receiving unemployment, and it was really hard on me thinking that I needed to get another job. I worked at home during the summer, but having to manage that along with a lot of the leadership responsibilities that I took on this year. And so these scholarships have allowed me to be able to pay rent and get groceries, as well as being able to invest my time back into different organizations, both through the Eberly College of Science, but also through other organizations that the university has. And one of those that has been really impactful this year was I'm the university relations director for an organization called Line Ambassadors. And through that, I've been able to connect with other student groups that have marginalized communities and really be able to get their takes on those things. As well as being able to incorporate everything that I've learned from my education through the Eberly College of Science and be able to think more critically about these situations and how I can advocate for others who are in similar positions as me.
Thank you so much. Another reminder to all of those in attendance, you're welcome to place questions that you have for the panelists in the chat, and I'll read them off as best possible. And if your questions aren't answered in today's event, we will do our best to get back to you in the coming days and weeks with good answers to your questions. So feel free to put some questions in the chat, and we'll do the best we can to get those answered by our panelists. A question as a follow-up to our conversation that just happened around the pandemic, we'll direct to Nick. Nick, what are some of the challenges and unexpected benefits resulting from COVID-19 measures? Maybe focusing on some of the benefits as we've talked a bit about the challenges.
Right. So with the COVID-19 pandemic, I think it's a lot easier to see the challenges than the benefits, but there were actually a lot of benefits, both as a student and as a person coming out from the pandemic. One of those benefits or advantages, I guess you could say, is it really showed how we, as just a human species, could advance technology and use it to our advantage. I mean, right now we're over on Zoom talking to each other, and we've really utilized this throughout the pandemic and in classrooms, and we've been able to continue our education using this kind of method. And I think that is really important because, you know, other situations that we may come across down the line could use this method again and continue to use it. Another advantage is I think it really showed how well we deal with adversity. It definitely was not easy for anyone, I don't think, to go through this sort of situation. And it really was kind of an obstacle for everyone, to hurdle. And it really showed, you know, how to get past tough situations. You know, people kind of came together in some instances. A lot of people, you know, communicated with one each other just to kind of get past this, you know, negatively connotated event. And other benefits, I'd say, I thought personally it brought me closer with my family. You know, I mean, aside from the fact that I was stuck with them in a house for however many months, but I definitely felt a lot closer to them. You know, I mean, going through this together and making sure we were there for one or another, and along with my friends as well, making them closer. So I think there's definitely a few benefits that maybe aren't as clear to everybody throughout the pandemic.
Thank you so much. And a quick follow-up for you, Nick, from the chat. With all that hard work, do you ever get any time for fun?
Yes, but not as much as I wish. Yes, there's a lot of hard work as a student, and you know, the thinking is that eventually it'll all pay off. That's what I've been told. That's what I've been hoping for, and I guess there's only one way to find out, and that's in the future. But as of now, I mean, you still find time to have fun. You hang out with your friends. You go out on the weekends when you can. Usually school is a top priority. That's why we're here at school and college. So balance definitely comes in as a measure there. But you definitely do have time if you make sure that you're on top of your things and you manage your time pretty well. So.
Thanks, Nick. The question for you, Dr. Haran. Learning from the current pandemic and how the Eberly College of Science has been affected, how do you think the Eberly College of Science may position its curriculum and research to address a potential future next pandemic?
So the first thing I'd like to mention is that as all of this was unfolding and we sort of watched it unfold in horror around the world, we were also at the College of Science extremely nervous about how we were suddenly going to go from being a regular university to being an online university within the span of a week. And I just wanted to say, this isn't exactly what you're saying, but it's related to the question you're asking. Because it turns out we have this great source of support and fantastic skill set of people who have been running World Campus online programs for Penn State, and lots of them thinking actively about cutting edge technology in education. They were all there and willing to help. And we also have faculty in our departments who do some of this. We just switched to online education. I mean, it wasn't as if it wasn't painful. It was difficult, but we just switched and we did it extraordinarily well. Some had to work harder at it than others, but we just made the switch, and I think it's kind of remarkable that we did it as well as we did. I think most of us, I for sure, I can speak for myself, I was just really nervous that things were going to crash and burn. But nothing like that happened. Everything went really, really well. Stress levels were high, but education, just our mission, just we held it together. And I think it's because of what we already had in the college. And so as a result of all of this, now we have all of this amazing built up set of skills in being able to, you know, a common word that we use all the time these days is pivot. So to quickly be able to change if there's a crisis of some kind. So we've really built up a lot more in terms of teaching skills, both as a community, but also as individuals in terms of the skill set that everyone has. And as an aside, some of those skills have actually permeated our regular instruction quite a bit. Even for my own teaching, I find that I use some technologies that I wasn't using before because I suddenly had to teach online. And also some of our giant classes that have 600 students, we've gone to these mixed mode things where the huge classes involve quick interactions online for a big lecture, and then there's more personalized lab meetings, and it ends up working out better for everybody concerned. So we've just learned a lot. And in terms of research, research can be very difficult and isolating at the best of times. And I think this was really a challenge for students and faculty, how to keep getting work done during the pandemic. But then we've learned how to do that much better as well. And now we even bring in people outside who aren't located here, former students, collaborators across the world. I have a group of former PhD students who meet every week. They live in Korea, Ohio, Nebraska, I don't know, all over the place. They meet every week now to chat. The things that people are doing, it's hard to maintain community during a pandemic, but it's somehow at the end, it's built up some more community. So I don't know if this exactly answers the question. One other comment is that the Center for Infectious Disease Dynamics, which has always been one of the world's leading places for research on infectious disease, the amount of research that's coming out of there and the messaging and the connection between the research there and policy, both within Penn State and across the state of Pennsylvania, this is what we want to see happen at a top research institution that's also the flagship institution for the state of Pennsylvania. So lots of good things in spite of a very, very difficult time.
Thank you so much. All right, now to shift gears a little bit away from the pandemic and into some more smiles on the panelists' faces. Let's go with Danny for our next question. And Danny, will you tell us what your favorite class is at the Eberly College of Science?
Yeah, so last year I took Bio 470, which was a functional neuro class. And I think it was a combination of the professor that I had and just the content that I was learning, where I think most of the questions that I had as an incoming first year were finally answered, because obviously as a first year, you're not going to go in and have a 400 level neuro class where you can like thoroughly understand why the brain works the way it works. But I think through a culmination of all my foundational classes, finally being able to tie some of the research that I've done into what I was learning in the classroom just really helped me be able to go to my PI with like questions that we could explore, or being able to tie in certain things of the project that I was working in on into the material that I was working in class.
Thank you. Unnati, what are you most excited about in the coming year?
Wow. So I guess on a personal front, I'm excited that two of my research projects are in the phase of like writing up drafts for the paper, and I hope that, well, I'll be applying to present them at conferences in the coming year. So I look forward to that. And also a very huge thing for me is that at Penn State, we've tried to, we've written the proposal, we've sent the proposal to the American Physical Society to host the conference for undergraduate women in physics. And yeah, as the chair of the committee for the conference, I'm very excited to get into the groups for planning the conference, inviting speakers, inviting diverse speakers, yeah, and really, create an experience for undergraduate students in physics. That's a memorable one. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. I'll ask the same question to Dr. Haran. What are you most excited about in the coming year?
Well, okay, so I'm going to be very optimistic. I'm most excited about meeting people without masks more often. And we'll see how soon that happens. But I'm already just more excited to see everybody in person, even without masks on. As I'm teaching this semester with my masks on, everybody in class has masks on, and it's still such a joy to interact with students like that. And I'm hoping just for more. We still have things in person, but it's still in this mode where we're not able to interact quite as much as in person as we were before. So I'm hoping for more of that. And also on the flip side, because of all of this stuff with Zoom and how comfortable people are with Zoom, I'm hoping to connect more with people who are Penn State alumni and benefactors and people who are part of the Penn State community who aren't actually physically located here. We're thinking of ways to organize more things to connect with them. So it's community. That's what I'm most excited about in the coming year.
Thank you so much. We will wrap up with one more question, and it is going to be directed to Nick, and it will be, what motivated you to agree to be a panelist for this meeting?
Just one more time, can you repeat that? That was for me, right?
Sure. Yes. What motivated you to agree to be a panelist for this meeting?
Right. So as a panelist, I am extremely excited to talk with and speak to the donors here at the event. It's an honor to thank everybody, because what they are doing here is just really amazing. It's not easy to have philanthropy, give philanthropy, sorry, and to make a difference in people's lives. That's the biggest thing. Maybe giving a student an opportunity that they don't necessarily usually have on their own. And that right there is, one of the reasons why I wanted to come on here as a panelist and speak to everyone, because it's an honor to talk to you guys and thank you for what you're doing, honestly, at the end of the day. Yeah, we have the pandemic and it's very upsetting and sad, but we figure out ways to get past it and move on in the future. And the students like us are the future. And as I said earlier, you guys give us the opportunity. So thank you guys so much for that.
Thank you so much. And thank you to all of you panelists for joining us today. If we all could be shouting and clapping right now for you to hear the 50 people, or actually 60 people in attendance at this moment would be clapping extremely loud. So thank you so much. We will now turn the time back over to Dr. Lankilda for our final comments. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, panelists. That was wonderful. And as I was talking with participants in the chat bar, I realized that we're incredibly fortunate to have Vern Williman's daughter, Wendy Williman, joining us today. And as the holder of the Vern M. Williman Dean's Chair, this is super exciting for me. So thank you, Wendy, for being here and for continuing your family's incredible legacy. And I so look forward to continuing to meet with all of you, hopefully in person soon, and to give you opportunities to connect with everyone in the college that has benefited from your generosity. So stay tuned. Panelists, thank you for your incredible stories. We are so fortunate to have you as part of our college community. And Dennis's comments about being both a benefactor and a recipient were so impactful. I wanted to share with you some additional thoughts from donors that have shared with us the value of being a benefactor and what it means to them. So one of our generous donors said this is responding to somebody that they had helped support. There's no possible way to express how emotional it makes me that intelligent, hardworking and deserving students like you will be the ones to one day unlock the cures or at the very least, better assist the patients and families who are devastated by the diseases you're working on. I'm so honored and grateful to be part of this journey. And from another, having a degree from Penn State will open many doors for you. I hope this scholarship will help you pursue your dreams and help you make this world a better place to live in. This is our small way of recognizing what Penn State gave us. So thank you all so much for making this important difference. And before we sign off today, I wanted to share some important data, because I know that scientists like data, but also this is a nice way of us being able to demonstrate the impact that you have all made in this campaign. So since the start of this campaign in 2016, the value of our endowment principal has increased by 138%. Today, the total value of our endowment principal is nearly $134 million. It's incredible. Thank you for your support. We now have 86 more endowed and annual funds than we did at the start of this campaign. And this includes undergraduate and graduate student aid, support for our programs and our research, and faculty funds through endowments. Of these new funds, 73 of them provide direct support to our students, and this money flows directly to our students, allowing them to focus on their studies rather than working part-time jobs and worrying about financial concerns, as many of our students have already shared. Thanks to you, we created 41 new open door scholarships in the college. This is the highest numbers in any college. 10 educational equity scholarships to benefit the students in the Eberly College of Science and across the university from our benefactors. And your gifts to the College of Science Student Emergency Fund, the Care and Advocacy Fund, and the funds that you all helped us raise during the One Big Week event, we were able to continue to respond quickly to the increasingly urgent need of our students who are facing food and housing insecurity. You also created 3 early career professorships, 3 faculty chairs, and 2 full professorships during this campaign. In addition to providing essential support for the really cutting edge, incredible research these faculty and their students are doing, I can't even begin to tell you how important these chairs and professorships have been in allowing us to recruit and keep the very best faculty, outcompeting or luring them away from our competitors and providing them with the support they need to not go looking at other schools. As a result of your support, our faculty are among the best in the world. Here are some numbers to illustrate their accomplishments. We have 14 members of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences, 60 fellows of the American Association for the Advancement of Science, 4 National Medal of Science recipients, 20 members of the National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine combined. And we hold 14 of the 25 current Evan Pugh professors across the university. This is the university's highest honor, and we are knocking it out of the park in that. This is incredible recognition and a signal that we're leading the way in science, and you are really helping us to do this. These are only some of the ways that you're making an impact today. You're also making an phenomenal impact on our future. With your bequests and other far range planning, including some of you turning your property or your art into charitable legacy, you're ensuring that your passion for science, Penn State students, and our faculty and our programs will continue to make a difference in the world for years to come. We know that there are so many worthy causes you could all support, and we are incredibly humbled that through your legacy, your current gifts, and your time, you've chosen to support the Eberly College of Science. Thank you so much. In closing, whenever we asked, you answered our call. You're our partners, and together we're opening doors, creating transformative experiences, and really making a difference and impacting our world. With our support, we really are creating a greater Penn State. It is my sincere hope and deep plan that next year we can gather in person for this special celebration of philanthropy. But thank you all so much for taking the time to join us on Zoom for this event. For now, on behalf of the Eberly College of Science and all of the people that you have helped support, thank you and have a wonderful day.